Hey everyone, it's Fengyun. 2 weeks ago, I uploaded my first YouTube video. Yay! It's something I have been itching to do for ages, and I'm incredibly grateful for all of you who tuned in and shared your thoughts generously. But when I tried to share it with my parents back in China, it hit me really hard. They couldn't even access it without a VPN. For those who are unfamiliar, YouTube has been banned in China for more than a decade as part of a larger internet censorship known as the Great Firewall. Of course, the Great Firewall is a metaphoric term. It represents the comprehensive censorship infrastructure designed to regulate and restrict access to certain foreign websites and online content. Recently, we have seen a similar saga unfold in the United States with TikTok, thanks to the passing of the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversaries Controlled Applications Act. So this act aims to ban social media platforms based on their country of origin, in particular those hailing from China. Although China's ban of China's ban of YouTube and America's ban on TikTok are very different in nature, I realize that both situations highlight the evolving relationship we have with social media and the broader digital world. I get it, there are myriad angles to approach this looming TikTok ban, from legal to political to social cultural. It would take more than a few videos, even many books to dissect this issue thoroughly. But today I want to focus on a few questions that have been lingering in my mind. How has our perception of social media changed over time, from envisioning a free and decentralized internet to harboring skepticism and mistrust? Are we witnessing the dawn of a new era, one marked by fortified digital borders and a more fragmented internet? And if social media platforms are under scrutiny now, what's next? Will we start to see borders popping up in other online realms like e-commerce? I'm eager to hear your thoughts, so please hit the subscribe button if you are interested in more discussions like this. Without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So TikTok was a fun and entertaining app, wasn't it? I'll be honest, I'm not a huge TikTok user. I don't post, but I scroll through it every now and then, and it never fails to make me laugh. Plus, some of those TikTok hacks are surprisingly useful, and it seems I'm not alone in my enjoyment. According to a Vox article, it says it's where very young teenagers explore subcultures like furry fandom, infantilism, and certain kinds of cosplay. The New York Times chimed in back in 2018, labeling TikTok as a Chinese video app that brings fun back to social media. And I particularly appreciate how this article from The Verge captures the essence of TikTok, titled "In Defense of TikTok, the joyful, slightly cringe-inducing spiritual successor to Vine." This article goes on to say, TikTok isn't about perfection. It's about belonging to a movement and to multiple communities that just want to express themselves through dancing, singing, acting, and collaboration. These little aspects of TikTok's culture make it feel more authentic than heavily edited YouTube videos or Instagram clips that we all scroll by after a couple of seconds. It also talks about the diversity and inclusivity of TikTok, stating there are communities for everyone on TikTok, making it feel more universally welcome. Cosplayers have found a home on the app, along with new wave emo kids and the anime obsessed. There is a place for SoundCloud rap lovers and those who want to show off their latest dance choreography. There is a place for pets and comedians to test out their latest material. This assessment of TikTok in the 2018 feels spot on. Unlike platforms like Twitter, which can sometimes be overwhelming with constant news update, TikTok offers a lighthearted escape from our daily hustle and bustle. While it may seem familiar to previous video-centric apps like Snapchat or Vine, TikTok stands out with its user-friendly editing tools and a wide range of sound and visual effects, allowing creators to unleash their creativity like never before. However, as TikTok skyrocketed in popularity, some of its darker sides began to emerge. It became clear that TikTok was more than a joyful digital playground. First, we realized how addictive it could be. people simply couldn't stop scrolling through the app. Although Mr. Shou Zichu has now become the public face to TikTok, thanks to the infamous clip where he was ruthlessly grilled by Senator Mr. Tom Cotton.
So, you said today, as you often say, that you live in Singapore. Of what nation are you a citizen?
Singapore.
Are you a citizen of any other nation?
No, Senator.
Have you ever applied for Chinese citizenship?
Senator, I served my nation in Singapore. No, I did not.
Do you have a Singaporean passport?
Yes, and I served my military for two and a half years in Singapore.
Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
Senator, I'm Singaporean. No.
Have you ever been associated or affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party?
No, Senator. Again, I'm Singaporean.
I know this is disturbing and triggering, but the underlying message is quite interesting. Chinese is an inclusive term that encompasses different cultures, languages, and ethnicities. Sadly, Mr. Cotton tries to equate it with a single political party, and we'll come back to this later. I have to introduce another key figure behind TikTok, Yiming Zhang, the former CEO and founder of its parent company, ByteDance. He's very low-key, and I always feel Zhang deserves much more attention. By the way, we share the same last name, but we're not related. And also, this video is not sponsored by TikTok. Everything reflects solely my personal opinion. So before Yiming Zhang purchased Musical.ly and rebranded as TikTok, he founded Toutiao in 2012, one of China's largest news aggregator platforms. The app uses machine learning and deep learning algorithms to curate content that users will find most interesting. Toutiao's underlying technology learns about readers through their usage, such as taps, swipes, time spent on each article, time of the day the user reads, pauses, comments, interactions with content, and location, basically everything without requiring any explicit input from the user or relying on their social graph. Each user is measured across tons of dimensions, resulting in a personalized content feed every time they open the app. In 2021, Toutiao had 150 million daily active users in China, with an average of 87 minutes per user per day. If you have used TikTok, you have likely experienced a similar allure. First, it's incredibly easy to use. The moment you open the app, content pops up without needing to create an account, link it to other social media, or provide personal information like gender, age, interest, or preferences. The app's simple design also makes it so intuitive without any prior knowledge or tutorials. While I sometimes find Instagram's recommendation too narrow focus, bombarding me with all kinds of cute dog videos, TikTok caters to your interests while still bringing something new every time. So TikTok's secret weapon is truly in its deep learning algorithm, which excels at sourcing and surfacing content tailored to individual tastes. So when TikTok faces threats of divestment or acquisition by American entities, many people believe that China won't allow the algorithm part to be sold. In fact, I did some research on the latest catalog of technologies prohibited or restricted from export, announced by the Ministry of Commerce and the Ministry of Science and Technology. Article 18 of this regulation states that personalized information recommendation services based on data analysis are restricted for export. Given the ever-changing nature of legislation, it's possible that China will move this from restricted to prohibited category. I've seen many media outlets claim that China will not allow a TikTok divestment. So this is both yes and no. As of now, the Chinese government has not explicitly expressed its stance. I will even see the government is unusually quiet, despite the restriction catalog signaling that it may not allow a forced sale. Now, I want to bring up the COVID-19 pandemic as a pivotal moment in the discussion surrounding TikTok for two reasons. First, Americans' use of TikTok skyrocketed during the lockdowns. TikTok's bite-sized video format, which emphasized creativity, humor, positivity, provided a much-needed distraction from our anxiety and uncertainty brought by the global health crisis. As people worldwide sought entertainment while adhering to lockdowns and social distancing measures, TikTok witnessed a staggering surge in downloads, active users, and overall engagement. While TikTok has previously been popular among younger generation and subcultural communities, the pandemic saw an influx of celebrities, influencers, and public figures joining the platform, bringing their followers with them and thus legitimizing TikTok as a mainstream social media app. By August 2020, several months into the lockdown, the total number of US monthly active users has soared to more than 100 million. As we discussed earlier, TikTok's underlying strength lies in its algorithm, and the algorithm thrives on a symbiotic relationship between user engagement and data accumulation. Venture capitalist Matt Tark has written about the power of data network effects. I'll link the article below if you want to read further. In simple terms, the more users engage with a product, the more data they contribute. The more data they contribute, the smarter the product becomes. A smarter product, meaning with better personalization and recommendations, will better serve users, encouraging them to return more often and contribute even more data, thus creating a virtuous cycle. TikTok's gathering of large troves of data thus further improve consumer targeting, making the app more appealing, increasing data traffic, and allowing TikTok to outcompete other social media. So this crazy growth has made US politicians begin to voice their concern about TikTok. In 2020, the year TikTok became the most downloaded app, Trump administration attempted to ban TikTok in the United States. The attempted ban was a convergence of many factors, most notably privacy and national security concerns, which I'll elaborate in my next section. However, we just cannot ignore the elephant in the room. The Trump administration's actions against TikTok were also politically motivated and aggravated anti-Chinese sentiment and anti-Asian hate during the pandemic. The targeting of TikTok was part of a broader trend of anti-Chinese rhetoric and actions. At that time, many public figures and media outlets had been using xenophobic languages such as China virus or Kung flu to refer to COVID-19, which led to the stigmatization and scapegoating of Asian Americans. Many AAPI individuals and communities encountered verbal and physical attack and boycott of their business. The attempted TikTok ban was also an extension of the ongoing trade war between the US and China. Since 2018, the two countries have engaged a series of tariffs, sanctions, and other economic measures against each other. The Trump administration viewed Chinese technology companies such as Huawei and ByteDance as a threat to U.S. national security and also economic interests. By targeting TikTok, the administration sought to pressure China and assert U.S. dominance in the tech sector. TikTok ultimately survived that ban. In 2021, President Biden signed an executive order revoking the Trump-era bans on TikTok and also WeChat, which is another popular Chinese message app. The Biden administration's approach to TikTok has been more measured, focusing on a broader examination of potential national security risks rather than outright bans. Now we must talk about TikTok's exploitative data gathering practices. To begin with, privacy concerns can be applied to almost all social media platforms, not just TikTok. As users share their personal information and engage with content, questions arise about how data is gathered, used, and potentially misused by the company behind the apps and also third parties with access to the information. Except for TikTok, platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter all amass extensive data, including our demographics, location information, browsing history, and many more. While this data is primarily used for targeted advertising, enhancing user experience, and helping businesses in reaching their desired customers, this raises questions about data privacy and the potential for misuse. And that's why many of us generally feel that the apps are spying on us. However, it's safe to say that TikTok raises more red flags in collecting user data. Let's consider the example of European Union, which is widely regarded as having some of the strictest and most comprehensive data privacy protection law in the world. I think EU's investigation provides a helpful benchmark. In 2023, European regulators punished TikTok with a 368 million fine for failing to protect children's privacy. The EU investigation found that the sign-up process for teen users resulted in settings that made their accounts public by default, allowing anyone to view and comment on their videos. Those default settings also posed a risk to children under 13 who gain access to the platform even though they are not allowed. By the way, recent EU scrutiny also include many US-based social media apps, focusing on data privacy and their safeguards against AI in a preemptive measure. So what about national security concerns? Professor Ann Kokas from the University of Virginia, a mentor of mine, has written about how tech firms have flourished financially under the U.S. insufficient consumer data protection. She said, quote, companies can gather, use, and monetize data with fewer constraints. In theory, such freewheeling innovation presented only limited national security risks as long as U.S. was a dominant global tech player, competing with allies and partners. But China and widely influential apps such as TikTok exposes how that approach creates a regulatory vacuum that affects consumer safety. TikTok might be less concerning if our federal lawmakers had to date taken comprehensive action to protect consumer data. I think she makes a great point here. The legal loophole in user data protection in the US has somewhat contributed to the rise of tech powerhouses. But as China also joins the competition, the lack of regulation has brought real concerns. A fundamental concept in this debate, in my opinion, is data sovereignty. It pertains to the ability of a nation to control the collection, storage, processing, and transfer of data within its physical borders. Today, more and more countries are asserting control over digital space and data resources. For those who agree that we should ban TikTok for national interests, I think a fundamental reason is a concern of data sovereignty. Data is also widely called the new oil of digital economy. It can create a vast amount of profit once properly refined. By attempting to ban TikTok, the US government is essentially seeking to assert its data sovereignty and stop American citizens' data from being accessed by a foreign power. And of course, this is also related to concerns about algorithmic manipulation. Policymakers have raised concern that TikTok algorithms could be used to influence public opinion or spread disinformation in the United States. Indeed, TikTok initiated Project Texas in 2022 as a response to the ongoing national security concerns and regulatory scrutiny in the United States. That's a very intentional name. You can find more details on a blog post titled TikTok's Commitment to Data Security on its company website, which I'll link down below if you want to check. Simply put, Project Texas involves a series of measures designed to ensure that U.S. user data is stored and managed separately from ByteDance, the Chinese parent company, and to provide greater transparency and accountability to U.S. authorities. TikTok has committed to storing all U.S. user data on servers owned and operated by Oracle, creating a new U.S.-based subsidiary called USDS, which is U.S. Data Security Department, allowing Oracle and U.S. government officials to review its source code and algorithms and publishing regular transparency reports. However, there have been different voices around Project Texas questioning its efficiency. Most importantly, the U.S. government seems not to be convinced as it still seeks to ban TikTok. So let me know your thoughts about this Project Texas in the comments below before we move to the next section. To some extent, the U.S. government chooses a blanket solution to an extremely complicated problem. It singles out TikTok as a foreign policy threat instead of fixing the long-existing neglect on consumer data protection. And the consequence is obvious: the increasing fragmentation of our digital landscape. So it's safe to say that the divide is coming, and there are a lot of reasons. After all, America is not the first country to threaten to have TikTok's cord cut. India's internet was once an open market for China, and TikTok was extremely popular there. But in 2020, India abruptly banned TikTok along with 58 other Chinese apps amidst escalating geopolitical tensions, notably following a border clash. The official order that blocked TikTok and dozens of other Chinese services actually did not mention China nor the fight on the border. Instead, the decree was described as a matter of data security and safeguarding the privacy of Indian citizens from elements hostile to national security and defense of India. And the Indians adjusted very quickly with Instagram and YouTube building big audiences in the void left by TikTok. So let's return to the signed bill that could potentially ban TikTok in the US. It uses a very general wording in delineating the threats from foreign adversary-controlled application. This has some pragmatic questions. First, companies' ownership structures are increasingly convoluted in today's globalized business world. For example, Uber has many global investors, including SoftBank Group, a Japanese conglomerate, and Saudi Arabia's public investment fund. China's Tencent has been an investor of Spotify and now owns 16% of Spotify's holdings. Second, the ban TikTok bill extends these considerations to persons deemed subject to direction or control of a foreign person or entity. This indiscriminate targeting based on national origins sounds very problematic to me. It reminds me of the China Initiative, a program launched by the Department of Justice to prosecute perceived spies in research institutes under the Trump administration. Even if there is some rationality, the program turned into a witch hunt toward top scientists and researchers who are of Chinese descent. The China Initiative had faced harsh criticism for fostering racial profiling, and the program was terminated in 2022 due to perceptions that it unfairly painted Chinese Americans and United States residents of Chinese origin as disloyal. Until here, I realized that the idea of an open internet is kind of a misnomer from the beginning. While we may have the utopian visions of the internet as a boundless world, it remains firmly entrenched within the broader framework of media history. Law professor Julian Koo from Hofstra University also points out, for well over 100 years, U.S. laws has blocked foreign, not just Chinese, control of certain crucial electronic media. The PROTECT Act fits comfortably with this long tradition. From the dawn of the electronic communications era, the U.S. government has sought to limit foreign ownership of media companies. This long American tradition of limiting foreign ownership over domestic media will also strengthen the PROTECT Act against First Amendment challenges. So is TikTok going away in the US? President Joe Biden has already signed the legislation into law, but it could take years for TikTok ban to actually go into effect, since TikTok is likely to challenge it in court. And at the very earliest, a ban wouldn't kick in until 2025, but it could take a lot longer than that. Social media apps like Instagram and YouTube would likely to be the biggest beneficiaries of a TikTok ban. Yet, the tech industry's response to the ban has been mixed. In 2022, Mark Zuckerberg stoked fears in Washington about TikTok's foreign ownership, but his stance has since evolved to a more nuanced position, saying in 2022 that it's a complicated matter. Elon Musk also tweeted in support of TikTok, writing, "TikTok should not be banned in the USA, even though such a ban may benefit the X platform. Doing so would be contrary to freedom of speech and expression." Also, because of antitrust concerns, now we know that at least Elon won't be purchasing TikTok and naming it Y next to X. As for users, many seem to care less. According to a survey from financial service group Wedbush, approximately 60% of TikTok user respondents said they would simply migrate to Instagram or Facebook in the event of a sale, while 19% said they will go to YouTube Shorts. So this is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I know this is a quite controversial topic, and I had a lot of fun working on this video. And I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment below. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.